नमस्कार, आप सभी का स्वागत है। आप सुन रहे हमारा पॉडकास्ट मुद्दा यही है। इस नए एपिसोड में आज हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं शालीन मैरिया लॉरेंस, जो कि एक जाने माने दलित एक्टिविस्ट है, इंटरसेक्शनल फेमिनिस्ट है, ऑथर है और ओरेटर भी है। और हमारे साथ है मनोज लियोन्जो, जो मद्रास हाई कोर्ट में एडवोकेट है। आज हम चर्चा करने वाले हैं हाल ही में पंजाब हरियाणा हाई कोर्ट और मध्य प्रदेश हाई कोर्ट के फैसलों का, जो कि ऐसा महसूस हो रहा है कि SC/ST एक्ट को डाइल्यूट करने लगे हैं। तो आइए स्टार्ट करते हैं, मुद्दा यही है। रिसेंटली पंजाब एंड हरियाणा हाई कोर्ट ने ये जजमेंट दी है, अगर कोई ऑफेंस पब्लिक स्पेस में नहीं होता है, अगर एक प्राइवेट स्पेस में होता है, तो उसको SC/ST एक्ट के अंडर में कार्रवाई नहीं की जाएगी। मध्य प्रदेश हाई कोर्ट ने एक कदम और आगे लिया इसी के ऊपर। मध्य प्रदेश हाई कोर्ट ने बोला अगर स्टाफ रूम में कोई गाली गलौज होता है कास्ट के नाम पे, तो वो SC/ST एक्ट के तहत नहीं आएगा, क्योंकि वो एक पब्लिक प्लेस नहीं होती है। तो इसी के ऊपर हम अपने डिस्कशन स्टार्ट करेंगे। शालीन मैम, माय फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन विल बी, एज अ फेलो अम्बेडकराइट, हमको क्या सोचना चाहिए इन जजमेंट्स के बारे में? व्हाट शुड बी मेक आउट ऑफ दिस जजमेंट्स? इज इट अनदर अटेम्प्ट टू डाइल्यूट द SC/ST एक्ट?
whatever happening with SC/ST एक्ट, ये जो सही नहीं हो रहा है, क्योंकि स्टार्टिंग में से लाइक फ्रॉम 89, फ्रॉम द टाइम SC/ST atrocities act came, they have been trying to make amendments and changes, and because a lot the act gives power to Dalit people, so that they can prevent atrocities which is happening on them, including violence and discrimination. So they do not, the people who are the upper caste or the OBCs do not want SC/ST people to have this tool or have this weapon with them. I would not say weapon, but a very good important law which could protect them from various things. For example, uh, in 2018, there was this High Court judgment, Supreme Court judgment, stating that you cannot file an FIR before investigating the case, and that was very unconstitutional. And there was a very big Bharat Bandh which happened, a lot of demonstrations which happened. I think more than 25 Dalits died in India fighting for that cause, because already when we file a complaint, if as a Dalit person, if you go ahead and file a complaint, if any atrocities happen on you, it is very impossible to even get the station to file it in the first place. To register complaint itself is not possible. To register an FIR, not possible. In that case, this the observation or this judgment by the Supreme Court saying that you cannot file the case, register the case without investigation, which was utterly wrong, and a lot of people died for it. And in 2019, because of all the struggles, because of all the martyrs from the Dalit community, end of the day, the judgment was scrapped, and Supreme Court apologized, and they withdraw the judgment, and they went ahead and said, it's okay, we'll bring it back, that you have to register the case and then follow up with the investigation. So these kind of things happen all the time. In fact, the conviction rate is very less. I think the conviction rate in SC/ST case is only 5%. Even in my state, Tamil Nadu, the conviction rate is only 5%. Which means the judicial system fails, the special courts fail to convict the people, and the police, the administration part it's worrisome. The way they handle the case itself is worrisome. So the law itself has not been implemented properly, and then the law is good, but end of the day they want to dilute it. So it is there is a constant fear as Dalits, as activists, as lawyers. People are in constant fear that what will happen to this law, because this is the only law which is safeguarding, giving me little bit safeguard and protection from atrocities, or giving me justice from the atrocities caused to me. And then you want to dilute it. Every year someone puts a case, someone files a public litigation, and there is a judgment saying don't do this, don't do that. एंड यहाँ पे जो हो रहा है कि एक ही जो भी हो रहा है, दे आर सेइंग लाइक इफ इट्स हैपनिंग इनसाइड अ रूम, यू कैन नॉट गिव अ कंप्लेन. इफ समबडी, आपके बॉस बोलेंगे कि आपको चमार बोलेंगे या परया बोलेंगे, हाँ माला बोलेंगे, माडिगा बोलेंगे, जो भी बोलेंगे, इफ दे से दैट इन अ क्लोज स्पेस, यू कैन यू नॉट फाइल अ केस. So I went and asked a fellow Dalit activist. I went and asked Kadir. I asked if it happens in public, if he's going to call me by a caste name, I can file a case. But if it's going to happen inside a room, I cannot. So he said, no, if you have a witness, एक भी आदमी उस रूम में था और वो सुन लिया कि आपके बॉस या जो भी है कोवर्कर जो भी है कि आपको डांट लिया आपके कास्ट नेम लेके, तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, यू कैन गो अहेड एंड बुक इट, और आपके पास कुछ रिकॉर्ड होगा तो SC/ST केस यू कैन डू. लेकिन एक विटनेस नहीं है, मात्र आप और वो, सिर्फ दो ही लोग उस रूम में हैं, और वो आपको इतना गाली देता है आपके जाति के ऊपर, तो आप केस कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते. तो मैंने बोला अच्छा ठीक है, तो मैं एक महिला हूं, तो महिला के वास्ते मैं comes to women's law, I'm gonna ask something. लीजिए कि मैं एक ऑफिस में काम कर रही हूँ और वहां पे क्लोज डोर्स के बिहाइंड में मेरे साथ सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट हो जाता है. रेप नहीं, लेकिन थोड़ा सा सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट हो जाता है. तो उसका विटनेस नहीं है, मोस्ट ऑफ द केसेस विटनेस नहीं होता ना. तो आई गो एंड आई फाइल अ केस, द केस गेट्स रजिस्टर्ड. ठीक है, तो इसने मेरे को मोलेस्ट किया या फिर हैरेस किया और सेक्सुअली बात किया बोले तो दैट केस गेट्स रजिस्टर्ड. लेकिन वही justice is not applied for a Dalit person. You will believe a woman, which is good. A woman has to be believed because she's talking about her modesty. But at the same time, when a Dalit is talking about his modesty, when a Dalit goes and says, oh my God, I've been humiliated on the basis of my caste, you will say, no, there was no witness, so will not file a case. How come it is? Don't you think the onus falls on the state, the onus falls on the police and the judicial system to inquire and to find out whether the Dalit was, harassed, used caste names or not. It is very simple. आप, इन्वेस्टिगेट कीजिए, वही तो है ना कानून का काम. आप you do the investigation. Why it should be on me? I am giving a complaint, so you have to say, okay, let us investigate. लेकिन आप इन्वेस्टिगेशन कीजिए, वो केस, वो रिजल्ट कैसा आएगा हमको पता नहीं, भरोसा नहीं है. लेकिन बेयर मिनिमम वो केस तो बुक हो जाएगा ना. तो वही तो मांग रहे हैं, जो एक महिला को मिल रहा है प्रोटेक्शन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन से, क्योंकि वो सोशली बैकवर्ड है because of the oppression they face. Same thing only for Dalits also, no? They belong to a community which has been oppressed for 3,000 years. कहाँ गए तो जाति के नाम को लेके इतना परेशान किया जा रहा है उनके साथ, right? They use all kind of names. So why don't you trust me and please take my complaint? So I'm just asking the courts, the honorable me lords, if you can give that advantage to a woman, why don't you give that to a Dalit? A Dalit's life is far more worth. तो यही तो मैं पूछ रही हूँ. And which means, are we not equal? That's why you cannot trust a Dalit, is what you're saying. So even in public places, जो भी हो रहा है, SC/ST Act 1989 का जो भी है, फ्रॉम द टाइम POA ऑल्सो, पब्लिक प्लेस में भी वो गाली देता है मेरी कास्ट नाम के ऊपर, उसका भी विटनेस चाहिए. तो बंद दरवाजे के, if it's inside somewhere or outside, you need witness, which itself makes it the law very not that useful for me, no. So इसका पॉलिसी चेंज चाहिए हमको. तो एक पॉलिसी का जो भी गैप्स है सीएसटी एक्ट में, हम लोगों को मिलके बैठ के पॉलिसी मेकर्स, डिसीजन मेकर्स, पार्लियामेंटेरियन के साथ बात करना है. ये बोलना है कि विटनेस कहाँ होंगे आजकल. तो कास्ट, अपर कास्ट लोग या ओबीसी और अप्रेसर कास्ट जो भी हम वील कॉल देम, वो चालाक हो गए ना. वो वो करते हैं इतना, कास्ट प्राइड और एट्रोसिटी इतना इतना करते हैं, लेकिन वो टेक्निकली करते हैं. तो दे विल आल्सो नो हाउ टू बाईपास एससी एसटी एक्ट, नो. सो यू हैव टू प्रैक्टिस डिस्क्रिशन. तो आपको मांगना नहीं चाहिए. हाँ बोलो, विटनेस बुलाओ. क्या विटनेस बुलाओ? वो सब विटनेस रख के करेगा क्या ये सच? ये सब आपको सोचना चाहिए. आप जैसे सेक्सुअल हरेसमेंट को डील कर रहे हैं, वैसे ही इसको भी डील करना चाहिए.
थैंक यू मैम. आपने एक बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट पैरेलल ड्रॉ किया है सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट ऑफ वुमेन और ये एससी एट्रोसिटीज के साथ, बिकॉज हमको ये चीज बहुत अच्छे से पता है कि एवरीथिंग इज इंटरसेक्शनल. Women who are from Dalit and Adivasi communities, they also face a different level of sexual harassment, which is only not based on their gender, but is based on their identity as well. तो अगर हम मॉडेस्टी ऑफ अ पर्टिकुलर जेंडर के लिए हम विटनेस ऐसे नहीं कॉल कर रहे, प्राइवेट स्पेस में अगर उनको हम मौका दे रहे कि आके कंप्लेंट रजिस्टर करने के लिए, तो हम सेम चीज आगे जाके दलित आदिवासी कम्युनिटी को क्यों नहीं दे पा रहे हैं?
एग्जैक्टली, एग्जैक्टली.
I would also ask Manoj sir to share his views on the same, if he thinks the courts are now on a rampage of sorts to dilute the SCST Act.
When there was another case, whenever we lodge a complaint, there should be an investigation prior to registering the complaint, on which the entire Dalit parties, Dalit movements had retaliated, on which there was an amendment 2018 was brought in, wherein this was really very shocking to us. The retaliation was not, up to the par. It was really shocking to us. And, this lot many cases in SEST fails in prosecution. The prosecution fails to prove the allegations. This is a big hit upon the SCST Act itself. This is how to say that, already out of 100, majority of SCST cases fails to win, as because the prosecution do not conduct the investigations properly. They fail to bring up the witnesses. They fail to bring up the material, substantiate with material evidences and all those stuff. So here in this case, I particularly see, when you look into the case, the allegation is that the accused has, abused the victim using caste slurs through mobile phone, in a phone call. And the lower court has ordered to register the case, wherein the accused has went for an appeal to quash the same, in which the judge has observed that it should be the class there should be a witness. Only then there will be an evidence. Only then the prima facie itself develops to register a complaint, which is totally against CRPC itself. Because CRPC doesn't say that. Whenever you give a complaint, immediately a receipt should be given to you, and immediately within 24 hours, FIR should be, the complaint should be registered, FIR should be established, and after that, investigation need to be done. And after investigation, charge sheet need to be filed. That is what CRPC says, Criminal Procedure Code says. But this judgment was totally against the CRPC itself, and also as I said, it is a big backstabbing of the SC/ST people. That is what I could say. This is one thing. This is against the verdict itself is against the CRPC. And the second thing, when you look at when the Punjab Haryana court has quashed the complaint itself, quashed the FIR itself, that a primary investigation need to be done. Evidence. They are looking. They look into evidence. So the prosecution deliberately failed to develop to retrieve the evidence. That is what I could say, because the person has cast slurred the victim through a phone call. So the prosecution should have obtained the call recording, but it didn't do it. The prosecution deliberately failed. That is what I wanted to take it. That is how I will take it. So it is not just about the court alone did it. Prosecution enabled the court to give such a verdict against the SC/ST Act itself, against CRPC itself. So we are totally helpless. We have become helpless. And this will affect all the other complaints. Already per year, at least 10, 20,000 of complaints are lodged by based on SC/ST Act, but wherein only few hundreds or thousand or 1,200 cases are being registered. The remaining 18,000 complaints are being left out without registering. And among these 1,200 complaints, hardly 200, not even 200, 50 complaints will get no only 50 complaints at least will reach the court, and it will face the trials. And after that, among all those, I do think, to my knowledge, only 25 cases in 25 only 25 cases wins the prosecution. And that too, that not because of the prosecution, that is because of assisting the prosecution. The accused itself, they take a help of any NGO or any advocate, and they file a prosecution assisting petition, and that is allowed. And the prosecution assisting, that is the victim side, they strive a lot to win the case. That is how majority of SC/ST cases has won. That is how, only in that way, the accused are being convicted. If you look at uh, uh, what is that, Kaushalya Sankar case or any famous cases, in all those, prosecution did nothing. Only the prosecution assisting has did all the things. That is an initiative by the victim and not by the state government. So the government itself didn't even care about all these crimes, didn't even care about the atrocities. They just wanted to happen the way it was even before the act had come in, because they feel that it is a fate, it is a one another common thing. Pan India, the atrocities are happening each and every day. Look at, but they think that it is a karma. A caste atrocity is a karma, it's a fate, it is normal, it is obvious. As per Hindu religion, it is very common, it is a rule, so that they don't care about all those. So this verdict is another a big hit against us. And to my knowledge, this verdict should be set aside by the Supreme Court. The matter should be taken up to the Supreme Court to decide on this, and this should be initiated. This will happen only when Dalit parties and movements step into it. Otherwise, nothing would happen. Advocates only, we can only conduct a trial, but again, this is in the hands of Parliament. So this matter should be escalated up to Supreme Court as well as up to Parliament. Otherwise, nothing will happen. We will again already only hardly 10, 15, 5% of cases are winning in SCST Act in SCST issues, and this 5% itself will fall down. And once in a year, a case will win. That too for showing an account. So several initiatives need to be taken out of court by the public, by Dalit movements, and by the Dalit party.
Sir, while we are on the topic of judiciary, I would like to ask a follow-up question regarding the caste bias that is very visibly present in judiciary, because such judgments would not follow if there wasn't an inherent bias. So, what do you think of it? From a lawyer point of view, I want to ask you, Manoj sir, and also from an activist point of view, Shalin ma'am, if you could follow after Manoj sir.
The judiciary is predominantly filled by or dominated by upper castes. I would say instead of upper caste, I would say it is predominantly dominated by dominant caste or oppressing castes. So when they are the one ruling the judiciary, expecting justice from them is really impossible. I cannot. There is no way we can knock their conscience. It is not possible, and at least we can expect them to implement the act law. It is also impossible because they have inherent power. So this caste bias will continue forever and ever until there is a reservation is getting implemented in judiciary, and the reservation should be of equal percentage. It is not like 18 or 22. It should be of 50% of reservation should be implemented in judiciary. Only then we will be able to control the bias. Still then we'll not be able to eradicate, but at least we can control it, but only by implementing reservation. Until then, the caste bias will be to the max and to the possible. It will exist in judiciary. No doubt about it.
When it comes to judiciary, I've always been talking about why judiciary needs reservation. So I think judiciary, I think most of the cases, for example, from marital rape, which is still not criminalized in India, uh, from two cases of caste discrimination, SCST Act. There's so many issues. Sometimes when you see a verdict, you get so angered, and the main reason for it is there's no reservation in judiciary, and it is dominated by upper caste people, and the SCST OBCs are very less. And when the I think five women judges were appointed, even they are all Savarna. There was not even one Dalit woman judge was appointed. It does not mean there are there are no qualified people in judiciary Dalits. There are a lot of qualified people, but they do not, the collegium, they do not want to appoint a Dalit judge. That is the main thing. So we've seen from especially the even the last verdict, Chandrachud whatever, the about same-sex marriage, we've seen it's all Brahminical. So we know the Supreme Court of India itself, with all due respect, we know it's kind of has a Brahminical approach to everything, from marriage to caste and everything, and the institution of family especially. So that's why we always say we need reservation in judiciary and scrap the collegiate. So that's what we are telling. And then when it comes to SCST Act, because right now we are talking about SCST Act, the SCST Act POA 2015 has a provision, because the reason the SCST Act was brought in, the first was three reasons. One, it says to eradication and reducing discrimination and atrocious violence on Dalits. Okay, and the second point is it to establish special courts in each and every district in this country. So it says that there should be a judicial system which is specifically designed to address SCST cases, atrocity cases. So, for example, if I'm from Tamil Nadu, there are like 32 districts, and I need to have one special court for SCST atrocities, in all districts. So I need to have around 32 courts, which obviously it is not there. But even the minimum number what we have, there should be a PP, and the PP is actually from the dominant caste, or mostly from they are from the upper caste. And when we went inside and we saw why this is happening, see, the SCST Act says that the PP or the APP for the special courts should be, the names should be finalized by the collector, district collector. He should see who's eligible and who has, experience, who's eligible. He should shortlist the name, and he should shortlist the name and give it to the state, and then the state should pick from it. But obviously, what happens is the state does not follow the SCST Act. The state, whoever is the ruling party, they go ahead and they, recruit any person who's very close to the ruling party, and they appoint him. So there are not even 1 or 2% Dalit PPs in special courts. You always have the dominant caste or the oppressor caste, and then they work for salary, they work for clout, they work for lobby, and they do not worry about whether a Dalit is getting justice or not. The main reason is they do not worry. They do not know how to filter the witnesses. They do not know how to analyze the witness. They do not know how to protect the victims. They do not know how to treat the victims with dignity. Nothing, because for them, they are looking at a lower caste people. That's what they are looking at. So they do not worry about it. They are not sensitized. They are caste driven. Okay, so they are appointed in a place where they will be fighting, they are prosecuting against their own caste men in most of the cases. So they will mostly try not to win the cases. See, in a lot of cases, and especially why I'm giving example is I'm more close to the cases in Tamil Nadu. A lot of cases, the prosecution is very weak. The state always sends a prosecution which is very weak. For example, in a lot of cases which fail, what we see is the prosecution is. We went and we did a study. We saw very inexperienced judges, prosecutors, who have no information about SCST Act or nothing, and they are the ones who are there as prosecution, and this gives upper hand to the accused, the perpetrators, and they go unpunished, they go unconvicted, so they go free, they go scot free. So the state also, in their appointment, they plan this and do this. So already the system is corrupted. You do not have a, we've seen, right, from Gogoi, we've seen what has happened, and what they do, how they appointed after their judgment, after the tenure, where they go, what they do, and the properties they hold, the power they enjoy. And so it is all upper caste, it is all upper class. So they are not sensitized towards caste, and they will not give anything to get a caste oppressor get convicted. So end of the day, state also doesn't want this to happen, because state always depends on caste vote banks. So it is multiple factors which contribute: the administration, the judicial system in itself. So there should be some kind of an independent panel which actually we should propose, like activists like us, a body of lawyers, and then a body of Dalit movements, Dalit political parties should go ahead and lobby for an independent panel. That panel will appoint the PPs. That panel will monitor the judicial process. So only that will help Dalits in the process of implementing the SCST Act properly and seeing it succeed through judicial system.
Agreed, ma'am. Uh, Ma'am, while we are on this, while we are having this particular conversation, and since you have already mentioned how public prosecutors are sometimes maybe appointed in a way so that they deliberately lose the case, do you think all of this appointing public prosecutors in such way and high courts bringing up such orders, it's all kind of connected and in a way trying to uh, affect the whole Dalit Adivasi movement that we are trying to bring to the foreground? Is everything connected?
Yeah, it's definitely. See, for example, Stan Swami is in a case, and he's person who's got Alzheimer's, he's got a lot of disease, Parkinson's, and things like that. And then he's just asking for a straw. And you think a PP, or a person who's a government person would not go and ask, like, for Stan Swami to give for a straw. I think the system itself is designed in such a way that everybody has an understanding. The defendant, I mean, the lawyer for the government lawyer for the defendant, and then the prosecution. Everything, it's interconnected. State, everything is interconnected. Judiciary is not independent anymore. That's why I'm giving you an example of Gogoi. We see what has happened. Judiciary is not independent. You see in the recent times how the Supreme Court judges came ahead and said, there is a problem inside. There is something happened, and all of them were silenced. So we are seeing there is a problem, and it is all interconnected. They do not want the status quo to be changed. They want Dalits to, die at the gates of courts. Every day in the legal battle, they want to die. They want us to they want to see us die fighting for justice every day. Like, I'm like, I don't know, I'm very tired because I see victims regular basis. I speak to these victims. I go to public hearings. I see victims of Dalit rape cases, gang rape cases, the cases where the honor killing cases. And there's a lot of things where we go and see, and you literally see the case is so wide and open. It's an open and shut case, and but still the accused or the cast perpetrator is free. And it is like, it's pretty confusing. And then you will see how state is also involved in it. For example, there was a very interesting thing which I came to read about. Justice Chandru, the J Beam famous Chandru, wrote something on the verdict on Keel Venmani. Keel Venmani in 1958 was a Dalit hamlet where more than, almost more than 50 Dalits were burnt. Dalit children in Tamil Nadu, Dalit children, Dalit women, Dalit men were all burnt to death. They were just scorched to death. And on Christmas Day, because they asked for, half a glass of extra rice as their wage. And that was a very big sociological fight of Dalits. There is this person called Gopalakrishna Naidu, who was a farm owner, and this farm owner is the person who's responsible for the death of these people, because he's the one who orchestrated the whole burning the Dalits in the night, their huts and everything, with the help of police and all those, because police just were standing. And when Chandru writes about how the then DMK government did not plead the case well, and they did not show any seriousness towards convicting him, that this guy went for appeals, and very easily, I can send you the link of what he wrote about that case, where this Gopalakrishna Naidu, the perpetrator, who everybody knew was the perpetrator, who killed hundreds of Dalits, just came out easily because the state did not wanted to give justice to Dalits. They were so cool. They were hand in gloves with their perpetrator, and the prosecution was very, very weak, and he was out. So this is something which is not happening today. This is something which is happening for decades. And then I was very surprised. But later, Gopalakrishna Naidu was executed. When he came out on the same Christmas day, he was executed by the same one Dalit person. They avenged his death. But what the state did was very shocking. And then Melavalapu Murugesan. Menapalavu Murugesan is a candidate of DMK who is a panchayat leader of a first reserve constituency. He was beheaded along with six Dalit men for being a Dalit. And then all the men who beheaded these men, all the caste perpetrators, they are out because ADMK and DMK, they did not plead it well in the court. So these guys went for appeal and they're out just like that, without a scratch. They're out. So this was shocks me when you asked me, are they together in it? Yeah, of course they are very much together in it. And state plays a major part. See, while we talk about how judiciary is rampant with caste, how judiciary is rampant with upper caste people, at the same time we also have to note how the PPs, how the prosecution from the government part, the state is also failing the Dalits and tribes. It's very important to talk about it. We have to take such cases, do an analysis, and submit a report.
Ma'am, on the same lines, now if we come back to the judgment, uh, I mean, I would like to have an opinion both from the legal side and both from an activist side on this as well. Like how the judgments mention the specific word public space and private space. Do you think is there any chance where we can legally determine such spaces so that it can be used in favor of us? Because otherwise, if there is an ambiguous definition of such spaces, it will only lead to more such cases not being fought well, right? So is there any way we can legally define these spaces?
In terms of public place, it cannot happen all the time, right? Most of the time, the caste remarks happens not in the public place, but in the private places, without anybody, not in the presence of a third person. That is how the caste will work. You can simply abuse anybody in front of in public, but the people are very concerned about not to abuse in front of others, but in a loneliness, when only two persons are available, an atrocity person and a victim. So this public the word public place cannot be actually determined at all. Somehow it has taken place. Very unfortunately, it is being quoted by the judge. It is actually unconstitutional. It has to be taken away. There should be an escalation. There should be an appeal to be taken, escalated to Supreme Court. That is what I would say. So you cannot actually determine anything. And also, I forgot to tell you one thing. When it comes to an SC/ST case, the majority of the IPS persons, they belong to dominant caste, and the person who have the right to register the complaint, that is FIR, that is the inspectors and sub inspectors, they predominantly belong to dominant caste. And when the case comes to the court, and it is the duty of the prosecutor to present well, but the public prosecutor is an appointee by the ruling party. For instance, presently DMK is ruling the state. And if you take the entire list of PPs, everybody will be a party person. Only party person will be appointed as a PP. So think it of the parties the party is predominantly filled by and ruled by and dominated by dominant caste, and the people will also be on the mindset. He will work on according to the mindset of the state. and the state will never have mercy on Dalits. So people will not even PP will not even care about it. The police will be very lethargic in terms of conducting the case, and in turn the PP as well. So the entire system itself is no, not on the favor of the victim, but being very lethargic and unfavorable to the victims. So this is one thing. And in terms of public, I really don't know how it could happen. Whether any person, a dominant caste person, will call everybody, at least 10 people, and will he cast a slur in front of everybody. That will not happen. He will call into the cabin and he will shout. He will use caste slurs, caste remark. That is how everywhere it is happening. If you look at the majority of complaints, such complaints, specifically caste remark complaints, the majority of incidents are taken place in a lonely place, in a private place, not in front of others. That is a no, out of 100 it would be a 10. So caste remarks made in front of others would be a 10%. The remaining all 90% happens in the private space, where a third person is not present at all. So they have clearly understood that if at all this public place is being mentioned, 90% of the complaints, SCST complaints, will not get registered at all. So they have very clearly mentioned this word, so that 90% of complaints will never get registered. I don't think this was an accidental judgment. This was a very well planned judgment. This was actually worked out so that to ensure that majority of complaints are not getting registered.
See, ये जो पब्लिक प्राइवेट का मैटर कहाँ से आता है, मैं यही पूछती हूँ, ठीक है? मर्डर होता है ना, मर्डर तो मर्डर है, प्राइवेट में होता है या पब्लिक में होता है? और चोरी, चोरी प्राइवेट और पब्लिक, चोरी होता है ना, आप जाके बोल दीजिए, हाँ थाने में जाके बोलिए, अरे इंस्पेक्टर साहब, मैं एक घर में थी और मेरा चेन चोरी हो गई, तो उन्होंने बोला अच्छा ठीक है, उन्होंने नहीं पूछेगा ना वो घर में थी, हाँ नहीं नहीं एक केस नहीं लेंगे, नहीं वैसा नहीं होगा, तो बोलेंगे अच्छा ठीक है आपका केस ले लूंगी मैं। और फिर पब्लिक में होगा तो हाँ ठीक है। तो चोरी की तरह, मर्डर की तरह, और उससे भी ऊपर, उससे भी इतना भयंकर है कास्ट एट्रोसिटी, और अब बोल रहे हैं कि अच्छा ठीक है एक क्लॉज डाल देते हैं, हाँ ठीक है, तो पब्लिक में होगा तो कास्ट एट्रोसिटी, अंदर होगा तो कास्ट एट्रोसिटी नहीं। ये एक कौन सा जजमेंट है? हाँ गुप्ता जी, मिलॉर्ड गुप्ता जी, he has to understand. For example, I'm someone who I've not studied law, okay? But if I can go ahead as a human rights activist and I can question this, जी आप क्या बोल रहे हो? जो भी होता है अंदर बागर क्या फर्क पड़ता है? हम क्या हमारा धोती सुखारे हैं क्या? अंदर बागर ऐसा बात कर रहे हैं, ये तो एट्रोसिटी है। हम तो सारी नहीं सुखा रहे हैं ना, कि पूछते हैं कि अंदर या बाहर। नो, हम पापड़ नहीं सुखा रहे हैं ना, अंदर या बाहर। हम क्या कर रहे हैं? हम तो एक एट्रोसिटी हुआ है मेरे ऊपर, और एक किसी ने मेरे को मेरे जाति के नाम पे बुला दिया, मुझे पराया बोल दिया, या फिर मुझे छमर बोल दिया, मुझे मारा बोल दिया, तो मेरा डिग्निटी है, मेरा सेल्फ रिस्पेक्ट है, तो कहाँ होता है? आपका क्या प्रॉब्लम? आपको वो क्राइम के ऊपर तो एक्शन लेना पड़ेगा ना। सो दिस होल कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ पब्लिक एंड प्राइवेट एंड दिस एंड दैट इज लाइक, what nonsense is this? I'm very sorry to this word, but this is very stupid in nature. It is very illogical, unreasonable. As Manoj said, if I can ask such a question, and Manoj, as a lawyer from Madras High Court, can ask such a question, a prosecutor or someone who was in the opposition side in the court, couldn't he had not asked this? Sir, how can you say public private for atrocity, sir? But they have not asked, which means it is premeditated. There's a saying in Tamil which says "Veli pairai meirudhu," which means the crop itself the fence itself is eating the crop. The Supreme Court, the Honorable Supreme Court or the Honorable High Court, but is supposed to, protect me. But what have you done? Instead, you have added a clause and made sure that I become, I become helpless. And you have enabled castes. Because Gupta ji ने सोच लिया कि गुप्ता जी के धर्म के वास्ते, गुप्ता जी का जो धर्म है ना, वो बोलता है जो भी ये शूद्रा या दलित सह रहा है उसको सहने दो, उसका जैसे उसका तो कर्मा है, हाँ, तो उसका धर्म हुई, that's what इसका धर्म teaches him, right? So his law knowledge, his knowledge of their knowledge of law, constitution, nothing matters, human rights, nothing matters. What matters is धर्म. अरे बाहर होता सब लोग देखेंगे तो ठीक है, सब लोग नहीं देखेंगे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, तेरा सेल्फ वर्थ का, सेल्फ रेस्पेक्ट का मुझे क्या पड़ता है, ऐसा ही है उनका सोच. So you should not take this as okay, one verdict which happened. No, this is very serious. I think all Dalit parties, all Dalit movements, all Dalit leaders and leaders who are non-Dalits but who are concerned about Dalit rights, even Rahul Gandhi I'm asking. Even I met Rahul Gandhi as a representative, Dalit delegate in Bharat Jodo Yatra in Kanyakumari. And he also has so much of aspirations to be the next Prime Minister of India. Even him, he should go ahead and talk. All the people in the parliament should, raise questions on this talk. There should be advocacy done. You cannot leave this like, Punjab ne bol diya, Madhya Pradesh ne bol diya, kya? You think it's over? No, what is the next level of Dalit movement we're going to do and make this stop? And I think only few people, like even at least Mooknayak, is doing this interview or podcast. I mean, nobody else is worried about it. As if it's not going to, cost the life of anybody. 25% Dalits are there in my state. Their lives are dependent on this. Their protection is dependent on this. And in every state, it is like that. And you don't worry about their life. Everybody is like carrying on with their life as if this verdict is nothing, which is wrong. We should fight against it. So we should fight how to scrap this. How did we fight for that earlier one, no? 2018. We should also fight for this. We should do it.
Well said, ma'am. इसके साथ ही हम अपने पॉडकास्ट एपिसोड के एंड पे आ रहे हैं, पर एंड करने के पहले मैं कुछ बातें दोहराना चाहता हूँ जो बहुत कायदे से शालीन मैम और मनोज सर ने रिटेरिएट किया है. हम एज सिटीजन्स क्या कर सकते हैं ऐसे चीजों के अगेंस्ट? हम ये अपील कर सकते हैं कि एक इंडिपेंडेंट पैनल बने with the help of Dalit rights activists and people from marginalized communities, जिनके थ्रू अपॉइंट हो पब्लिक प्रोसिक्यूटर्स. हम ये अपील कर सकते कि जुडिशरी में रिजर्वेशन हो, और as members of this Dalit movement, we can challenge these judgments at Supreme Court as well. With this, I would like to end this episode. Thank you so much, Shalin ma'am and Manoj sir, for joining.